Hey, this is Klarque Garrison, Survival Radio Network. I have the pleasure of speaking with the one and only Dr. Dennis Kimbro. We're at the 6th Annual Billionaire Mindset Forum. Welcome, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed myself today. It's quite a forum.
You seemed like you did, sir. You gave a lot of passion, which every time I've heard you speak, which over the years I have, you always seem to have this inner passion about our community, our people being better than what we are.
Well, the reason why you see the passion in me, because I lived it.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived the interviews. I lived, all the trials and tribulations, the ups and the downs and the highs and lows. So there is no way in the world that can't come. It can't be blocked.
Right. It's
genuine.
I
mean, I walked into the office of John Johnson. I walked, me and my wife were having a conversation on the way over here. She says, "How come you never tell?" I shared the story about Martin Luther King.
Right.
But I not only sat down with those folks from that generation, but I sat down with the 3 black entrepreneurs who used to get King and his lieutenants out of jail. T.M. Alexander, S.B. Fuller.
Nobody talks about
A.G. Gaston. When they were thrown in the jail, A.G. Gaston, S.B. Fuller, and T.M. Alexander had to go there with cash in their checkbooks to go ahead and get them bond. And I sat at their feet. So, there's a lot of history, and I just tried to share that history.
Listening to you speak, I wrote down a couple of questions I got to ask you. So in our communities, we champion entertainers as the benchmark.
Yeah.
Why don't we champion the economic?
And here's the thing. You got less than 20 actors and actresses, okay, in Hollywood that earn $1 million more for a picture. And you think of the hundreds of thousands in that industry.
Wow.
I mean, the average actor and actress in Hollywood is only $80,000. Wow. When I sat down with Tyler Perry said to me, he says, "You seen my movies?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You seen my plays?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You see, I use the same actresses over and over again." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Half of those women don't even have health insurance." I tried to talk to him about the spending habits and everything. So, but we get caught up in that. Now, I'm not saying if that's your dream, I want you to chase your dream. You will, be the next Denzel, because nothing can stop the passionate, committed mind.
Right.
The passionate, committed mind cannot be defeated. If the passionate, committed mind could be defeated, there'd be no Oprah Winfrey. If it could be defeated, there'd be no Steve Jobs. Why? They were passionate and they were committed. They paid the price. I mean, before you had a black president, you were enslaved, right? Okay. Before your mother gave birth, she was in labor, right? Okay. Before your labor, your personal savior was resurrected, he was crucified, right? So the bottom line, pay the price and get over it. That's the passionate, committed mind will allow you to do that. It can't be defeated. But what I'm saying is, all right, let's think about this a little bit realistically. So, I mean, you got the average actor and actress in Hollywood earns $12 an hour. So you think about that and start thinking about all the other opportunities that are out there that we never talk about and we never see because we're just locked into that. But, I don't tell people that they got to be a millionaire. I don't tell people that, you got to be a corporate climber. You got to be bank like Hank.
Right.
All I talk about is personal fulfillment.
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing what you want to do? And I interview scores of people and what makes the great great. I remember one of the people ask me all the time, "Man, who's the greatest individual that you met?" And at the top of my mind, there is no other, and that's Osceola McCarty, the little washerwoman from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I mean, here's a black woman, started working at age 8, didn't quit to age 84. And she took in the wash of her community. And people laughed at her. I mean, she did that for close to 80 years. She never ventured out of her neighborhood. She only ventured out of her neighborhood to visit the sick and the shut-in, to go to a church and do her grocery shopping. She had never been to a drive-through window McDonald's in her life. But all she did, she took in the wash of her community. And she charged people nickels, dimes, quarters, sometimes $1. And every week she went down to the bank and made her deposit. She did that for 80 years. Well, one day she gets a phone call from a banker, and the banker says, "Ms. McCarty, as a senior level vice president at this bank, I'm obligated to ask you the following question. Do you know how much money you have saved in 80 years? She said, "No, tell me." He said, "You need to come down here. We need to talk." Wow. She goes down to the bank and he tells her, "You have saved more than $250,000. And she couldn't even conjure in her mind what's $250,000. She didn't know what that is. And he says, the question I got to ask, what do you want done with your resources in the untimely nature of your death? And she was still trying to picture, what is $250,000? He says, Mr. Cardi, I'm going to make it simple for you. I'm going to put 10 dimes on my desk, and you tell me what you want done with every dime. So he pointed to the first dime. She said, give that to the church. I said, okay. He pointed to the next 3 dimes, said, give that to my nephews. I love them so much. I don't have any children of my own. And then she pointed to the last 6 dimes, and she said, give that to the school in town. He said, what school? She said, University of Southern Mississippi, a school she was barred from attending because of her race. Said, I want you to give that, start a scholarship, okay? Give that to worthy and deserving Black college students who still possess the ability to dream.
Wow.
To dream.
I've never heard that story before.
Hey, and I can tell that story because I sat in that. I spent the better part of a day in Hattiesburg with her. She doesn't get a phone call. She doesn't get a letter. She gets a phone call from President Clinton begging her to come to Washington, D.C. He's going to bestow the highest honor he can, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So I'm in her house, her little 2-bedroom house, right?
Yes, sir.
There's a knock at the door. Now I'm interviewing. There's a knock at the door. She tells me, see who that is. Now I'm in her house. So I go to the door, and it's the mailman. I said, Miss McCarty, it's a mailman. There's a gift for you. There's a present for you, and it's from Sweden. She says, open it up and read it to me. And she was bestowed with another honor. And so I knew that she won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I said, Miss McCarty, President Clinton gave you the highest honor and award. And she says, would you like to see it? And I said, would I? She takes me by the elbow. This is the God's honest truth. We walk into her dining room. On her dining room table are mountains of awards and honors. She goes just like this. Now, I know it's in here somewhere. No ego. No ego. What the absence of ego is love. Do you hear what I said? The absence of ego is love. You can't get wet by reading the word water. You get wet by immersing yourself in water. You can't be separated from the spirituality. The ability that you were given the dream is telling you that it can be attained. There's nothing precocious about your creator. God is not some old man with a beard in the sky. God is Holy Spirit in here. It's love. And anything can be conquered with love. We got these young brothers and everything getting caught up in Ferguson and Baltimore and everything, and they're going to march and picket. Yeah, that's great. But when you look at Gandhi and when you look at Nelson Mandela and you look at Martin Luther King, there were 2 factors and 2 segments of their marching. They had a day for prayer and they had a day for fasting. That's the only way it can be conquered. Now, if you're willing to do that, bam. And Martin Luther King had a dress code. If you march with him, you had to wear your Sunday best because that's the image he wanted on TV. The fire hoses. Look at the man, the poor, and blah, blah, blah. That's power. And you can use that same power to unleash your dream. That's why you were here. That's why you were here at this particular point in time. One of the assignments I give to my students, no, you're going to tell me what the world will miss if you didn't show up at this time and place.
That's powerful.
That's the greatest interviewing question.
That is.
You come interviewing for a job, and I don't care if you're a recruiter and you're interviewing a candidate, before you let that candidate walk out that room, the question you got to ask, if I allow you to get up out of your chair, walk across the street and work for my competitor, what is my company going to miss? Clark Atlanta, you don't hire me, you're going to miss a lot. You're going to miss your name out there because every time I give a presentation, I mention CAU. Everybody knows what I do for a living. They know where to find me. I don't have to throw out a business card. And the folks who have called me at that little school, Jim Tressel, head football coach at Notre Dame, called me at that school. Owner of the Denver Nuggets, you got to come speak to my players. Kansas City Royals, come speak to my team. St. Louis Rams football team, Dr. Kimbro, man, come speak to my team. Deborah Lee, BET, man, you got to come out here to Hollywood. I'm concerned about my entertainers. They're blowing all their cash. They find out where I am. They pick up the phone and they call, man.
Well, Doc, let me ask you this: why did you choose CAU when you could have? You could have been anywhere.
They asked.
It's just that simple.
That's simple. They asked.
Wow. Wow.
Fast.
Last two questions. I know you got to get out of here. I wanted to ask you, for our listeners, what should we be reading and what should we be thinking?
Read anything for growth and personal development. That's it. I'm not going to tell you what, but you know, I'm a big fan, and I read them all, man. I read them all. Like I told you earlier today, the 4 greatest prayers. Do we even know the 4? I mean, with all due respect, the Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. I mean, the presentation. I'm talking about prayers now. But number 1, the Beatitudes. You know, blessed are the meek. And what does it mean, meek? Those without ego, no pompous, no blah blah blah, no preconceived notion. You know, for they shall obtain it. And you know, Saint Francis of Assisi. You got one of your cities, San Francisco, named after him. You know. Where there's injury, let me sow pardon. You know, where there's hate, let me sow love. Love cannot be defeated. Mother Teresa, people may tear down what took you years to build. Build anyway. Don't you know the last interview that Mother Teresa gave was on a little radio station in Phoenix, Arizona? And you listen, I tell my students this case study because anything can be conquered with love. And she was on a little 50,000 watt radio station in Phoenix. And everybody in Phoenix wanted to know, went to the station owner, how did you get Mother Teresa on that little 50,000 when it gets dark? We can't even hear, blah, blah, blah. And she said, you know, I just came to talk about the new homeless shelter that's opened up here in Phoenix. So the station owner, he was just taken back. Man, I got Mother Teresa. There's got to be something I can do for you, Mother Teresa. But all she's concerned about love. I said, Mother Teresa, thank you for taking time out. What can we do for you? She said, you don't have to do anything for me. I just want to talk about the new homeless shelter here in Phoenix. Well, Mother Teresa, I mean, you know, we know that you have a private school and, you know, your children, the little girls that go to your private school need uniforms. Suppose we raise money to help buy the uniform. She said, no, you don't have to do that. I just want to come here to talk about the homeless shelter here in Phoenix. He said, well, Mother Teresa, you know, we have a lot of listeners and we can have a huge fundraiser and you can take back to your orphanage back in Calcutta. She says, no, I'm just here. I just want to talk about the homeless shelter here in Phoenix. Finally, realizing that she doesn't want any of that for herself, he throws himself on the sword. Mother Teresa, there's got to be something that I can do for you. And she says, okay, on second thought, there is something that you can do for me. You seem like an earnest and an honest man. What I want you to do, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I want you to take a blanket and I want you to go to downtown Phoenix in the middle of winter. And I want you to find a man living on the streets of Phoenix who thinks that he's alone. Give him that blanket and tell him he's not. That's what you can do for me. And she walked out.
Wow. What a way to end it.
Any problem.
That's classic.
Any problem. And Black America needs to understand this. We allowed this federal government to turn us into a third world nation. The 3 greatest burdens ever placed on the back of my don't get me wrong, I'm not a Republican, I'm not conservative. I voted for my president the last 2 times, throw him out there again. If we could, I'll vote for him again. But I'm a realist. I know human nature. I know what works and what doesn't. And the 3 greatest burdens ever placed on the back of my people, number 1, slavery, number 2, Jim Crow, and number 3, creation of the welfare state. I was a junior in college in 1970 when the federal government allowed blacks to have welfare. I was a junior thinking that's going to be the panacea. There's folks out there who need it, but there's folks out there who need opportunity too. You got all these black males going to some of these sorry public schools and they don't even want to teach black males. That's why they put them in detention. And what is detention? It's a holding cell waiting for them to get the real cell when they turn 18. That's detention. Now, why do I say that? Because they have no problem calling me up, flying me, telling me go to where to go into the penitentiaries to speak to the brothers. Wow. And you name them, I've been in there. I've been in there. Young brother said to me, he said, man, Doc, there's only 3 folks, man, we read in here. We read you, we read Farrakhan, we read Jakes. We don't read nobody else, man.
All right, Doc, they're cutting us
out
off.
of here.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so much.